This morning, protesting against ICE operations in Minnesota, how local demonstrators are seeking justice for those killed by federal agents.
Plus, here in Wisconsin, temperatures, they're still cold, but they are getting better. I'll have the full forecast coming up.
And we're making sure you've got all the information you need to get your tax return, the new changes, and how they affect you. Well, good Saturday morning, and thanks for waking up with us this weekend. I'm Michelle Renee Quinn.
And I'm Jacob Montesano. You're watching Weekend Mornings. It is Saturday, January 31st. If you can believe it, it is the end of January. But in other ways, it does feel like this month has been going by very slowly when you think about the fact that earlier in the month, and really for the first half of the month, we had some very mild temperatures, and that feels like a lifetime ago with how cold it's been.
Because recently, I've only seen and felt negatives and freezing.
Yeah, but this is looking like the first day where we really start to taking that turn. Now, again, temperatures are still cold, but looking at the temperatures outside, for the first time this whole week, they're consistently above zero, and some areas are in the teens at this hour. 12 right now in Madison. Some areas are close to zero, just one in Prairie du Chien, and we also are still dealing with some windy conditions, so these light winds are causing the wind chills to be near, and in some cases, actually a lot of cases, below zero. But the last couple of mornings, these wind chills were in the negative teens. So again, it definitely is better, but still cold. Now, as we get towards the afternoon, wind chills are expected to get pretty easily above zero into the positive teens, and actual temperatures are going to get into the lower 20s with plenty of sunshine. And then from here, temperatures will continue to warm up at least pretty slowly before they do steady out. And I'll talk more in detail about that and show you our next chance of snow coming up a bit later.
Thanks, Jacob. A bipartisan spending deal to avert a partial government shutdown is now passed. Senate Democrats reached an agreement with President Trump Thursday night to separate DHS funding from the rest of the spending measures and fund the agency for 2 weeks. The compromise hit a snag earlier yesterday when Republican Lindsey Graham put a hold on the vote.
The clock is ticking, the nation is waiting, and the abuses of ICE must come to an end.
Hold the people accountable in ICE who may have broken the law, but stand up for those in the field trying to protect America.
The 2-week extension for the Department of Homeland Security was put in to work on new rules for federal agents involved in ICE operations. The lower chamber is set to return to Washington on Monday to approve that bill. A week ago today, Alex Peretti was shot and killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis. The entire country chose Friday as a nationwide shutdown. Organizations across the country called for an ICE out, meaning no work, school, or shopping, in an effort to make their message heard. The message they're sending? The administration's immigration crackdown is violent, and some say un-American. This included hundreds at the Capitol, where Armand Rahman talked to the multiple different types of demonstrators.
Voices of students.
Showing up really matters, especially for the people who can't show up.
And nurses.
And I'm hoping it will translate to action and change.
And others converged into one big chorus outside the Capitol.
Even though we're freezing and we don't necessarily want to be out in the cold, but we think this is really important to do.
The nationwide shutdown called for people to walk off their jobs, classes, and more to speak up. Nurses from Madison hospitals stood in solidarity with those in Minneapolis after one of their own, Alex Peretti, was shot and killed by ICE agents barely a week ago.
I have a lot of friends from nursing school in Wisconsin who live in Minneapolis, and their community is really hurting.
RN Allie Biskowitz joined others during their workday, taking a stance she thinks should be a no-brainer for a healthcare worker.
Nursing's all about caring for the community and helping to build safer, healthier communities, and so I stand against ICE and against violence in Minneapolis and everywhere in America.
Dozens of businesses in Madison also closed their doors, joining the nationwide shutdown. Some of those who couldn't say they still donated part of their sales to different organizations, part of the cause.
I would have loved to be able to fully shut down in solidarity with that and take part in that, but as a small business, it's really difficult.
It's far from the first protest against ICE in Madison, as demonstrators took to the Capitol days after Renee Good was also shot and killed by ICE, also in Minneapolis.
I think that this one definitely feels different because I feel like this is a lot more extreme.
But on Friday, these protesters say the message feels far more urgent.
The escalation of ICE coming into Wisconsin and Milwaukee, they're just preparing for that threat. There will be ICE present here on the streets, and it will start to affect their everyday, their neighbors, their friends, their family.
One high schooler's sign read, "Skipping art lessons to teach you one, for the country today and the one they'll grow to inherit."
For me, it's really important as like a person of color, especially as a Latino woman who is actively being persecuted, like my friends, my family are being persecuted. I think it's really important to speak up.
There will be a community meeting at the Labor Temple today at noon. Meanwhile, the DOJ arrested former CNN anchor Don Lemon in Los Angeles. It claims he was part of a protest that disrupted a church service in St. Paul, Minnesota earlier this month. Lemon had said he was not part of the protest, but was covering it as a journalist. The two charges he's facing are conspiracy to deprive rights and a violation of the FACE Act, which includes interfering by force of someone's First Amendment rights.
These are serious federal rights, civil rights charges, but they hinge on conduct, not speech. Prosecutors have to show probable cause that there was an actual agreement to interfere with protected rights. Reporting on events, even controversial ones, is just not enough.
The demonstrators were protesting one of the church's pastors who works with ICE in a separate capacity. Attorney General Pam Bondi said it was her decision to pursue the arrest.
You have the right to worship freely and safely. And if I haven't been clear already, if you violate that sacred right, we are coming after you.
In Congress, lawmakers are set to negotiate measures to rein in federal immigration officers. A multitude of journalism organizations, including Freedom of the Press Foundation and the First Amendment Coalition, are expressing outrage at the arrest, standing in solidarity, saying the First Amendment is not optional. In a statement, the National Association of Black Journalists president says, in part, as journalists, our first obligation is to bear witness and to inform. A free press, not a penalized one, is essential to democracy, especially when coverage intersects with contentious public issues. Here's a wrap for January on Wall Street. Gains for the month, but down Friday for closing numbers. The Dow Jones falling 179 points, the Nasdaq tumbling 223, and the S&P 500 falling 30. New inflation data shows price pressures at the wholesale level are still running hot. The producer price index rose 0.5% in December. That's double what economists expected. On a year-over-year basis, wholesale prices were up 3%, above forecast and unchanged from November. The Fed's current goal is 2% consumer inflation, a level it hasn't hit in 5 years. And don't forget about the new changes that could affect you when filing your taxes this season. The IRS started accepting documents at the beginning of the week, and if you're a middle-income family with kids, a worker who earns tips or overtime, or a senior citizen, you could also see a bigger refund. When looking at the standard deduction, which is the amount of income that's not taxed, that's gone up for 2025. You can take a look at your screen right now. These are the numbers reflecting both the IRS and Trump's budget bill changes. Seniors will also get a bonus $6,000 deduction, and the state and local tax deduction is temporarily raised from $10,000 to $40,000. So middle-class families will certainly feel that relief. Meanwhile, the child tax credit increased by $200, but new eligibility rules might affect some mixed status and immigrant families. The child must be a U.S. citizen, live with you more than half the tax year, and both you and the child must have a Social Security number. The maximum child tax credit is $2,200 per qualifying kid. And we do want to make sure your information is protected. Tax refund phishing scams often come in the form of robo-emails or texts asking you to click a link and provide personal information like your Social Security number or bank account details. Don't do it. That's your red flag. It's a scam. The IRS says only scammers will reach out by text, email, or social media to get your information. You should also beware of callers posing as government agents trying to connect you to a tax resolution officer. That's just another way scammers try to get your information. You can report scam messages to the FTC by checking the report junk option on your phone or forward unwanted texts to spam. You can also track your tax refund by using the IRS's Where's My Refund tool to get updates on the status of your return. And if you're not filing electronically, just allow for about a month for it to show up on the tracker. Now to new updates in the case against Josie Dykeman, the woman accused of allegedly killing 6-year-old A.J. Padrine. Testimony from a child abuse physician during yesterday's motion hearing may be excluded due to a discovery issue. Dr. Kristen Iniguez spent 4 hours testifying about Padrine's injuries during the hearing. The defense argues they never received her full report detailing his injuries and another child from previous incidents involving Dykeman.
I think a doctor can testify that this is not normal. In other words, I believe the doctor can testify to this. I think the doctor can testify that the injuries suffered were not necessarily unintentional injuries.
Judge Elliot Levine, who you just heard from there, will decide by the case's next hearing whether to exclude or limit the testimony. Dykeman's 14-day jury trial begins April 28th. You're watching Weekend Mornings, and coming up, the rules going into effect tomorrow at airports nationwide, how you can avoid paying an extra fee to fly.
But first, I'll be back with a full look at your forecast for this weekend and beyond. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
You're watching News 3 Now this morning. Moving forward.
Welcome back. In this week's Time for Kids, a recipe for health, we have a tip to power through the winter season. News 3 Now's Kyrion Lee shares ways to ward off the winter blues with movement when you're stuck inside.
It might be cold and dreary outside, but growing bodies need plenty of exercise to stay healthy. Joining me now is nutrition coach Zasha Billingsley with 3 exercises you can do as a family to keep your body moving. Why is it so important to keep your bodies moving?
It's important because one, it's cold outside, like you said. It keeps the body warm. It's good for bone and muscle development in children, good for cognitive function, blood flow, all of that, and injury prevention. Push-ups, that's the most foundational exercise you can do. Helps with the arm strength, core, just teaches discipline and, grit in that aspect.
Okay.
Of course, you want to make sure that your arms are a little bit more than shoulder width apart, lined up with the chest. Up and down. So you can get down on a knee. Make sure the top is straight. Or you can get on the wall, a table, anything that you can just push up and down off of. Second one is squat press. That gets the legs moving. Of course, it's just easy, simple. Push out, up, push out, up. Last one is to keep it fun for the kids. We got a crab walk or a bear crawl. This one is good for cardio, triceps, wrists, shoulders, everything. Walk around. You can walk around the house like this. If you want to really challenge it, lift the hips up and keep that like that. Walk backwards. The bear crawl, which is the other variation, where you just step forward, keep a tabletop position. I always like to end it with a challenge as well to make it fun. You can do a balance challenge with the kids, leg up, leg out, leg back, see who can hold it the longest, see who can hold the longest wall sit, see who can hold the longest plank. Just kind of keep track of it that way and then have fun as a family.
All right, thank you, ladies. Now let's check in with meteorologist Jacob Montesano live from our studio in Madison.
Thanks, Michelle Renee. As we take a look at the 3 things you need to know, still cold but getting better this weekend temperature-wise. Small snow chance tomorrow, but in general, we're not going to see a lot of snowfall accumulation in the forecast. Some light accumulation for sure, but certainly nothing too big. So let's take a look at that snowfall chance this weekend. Not going to see any of that today. We'll see plenty of sunshine with those temperatures warming up into the 20s for the first time in just about a week and a half. And as we get towards the overnight hours, clouds will increase. Then here comes that chance of snow, with the best chance of snow being for areas west of Madison. As that clipper kind of moves from west to east, it will dissipate a little bit. I still expect to see some light snow showers for Dane County and surrounding areas at some point, but areas to the west will have a better chance of accumulation, and even those areas probably only going to see about an inch or 2 at most, probably less than an inch for Dane County and surrounding areas. Then as we get towards Monday morning, that will mostly clear out of the region as clouds remain, or as skies remain cloudy. Looking at the snow chances beyond that, very dry for the first half of the work week. We are going to see another chance of snow return Thursday into Thursday night, but once again, still not expecting much. In fact, there is a small chance that we could see a little bit of rain with this system, as those temperatures could get above freezing. Now, over the next 10 days, it'll be a pretty quiet forecast, much quieter than what we've seen for pretty much this entire winter, where some days the temperatures were in the 50s, and other days the high was below 0. The next 10 days will feature very normal temperatures in the 20s, maybe lower 30s, and also not much snow. So we've had we've always had something. It's either been a lot of snow, mild temperatures, or very cold temperatures. But for once this winter, we're actually going to see kind of none of that. Now, again, we still have some snow in the forecast, and it still will be cold, but nothing too out of the norm going forward. So I'm sure many people will kind of take this little bit of a break. I know many people would want it to be like back in the 40s and 50s, but I'm sure people will take 20s and maybe even some lower 30s right now.
Right. Any 20s and 30s, that's better than our negative teens, right?
Oh, yeah. And we're not going to see that bitter cold return anytime soon in the near future.
Thank God. Thank you, Jacob, too. Well, starting tomorrow, if you don't have a real ID or a passport, it'll cost you extra to get on the plane. The agency's new TSA Confirm ID program will direct passengers with non-compliant forms to the TSA website. You'll need to sign up and pay the fee before accessing security. About 150,000 people each day go through TSA checkpoints without a compliant real ID.
We want to make sure that the system is modernized. We want to make sure that we're covering down on the latest technology. We're also ensuring that in this situation, this cost is not bared by the taxpayers. This cost is bared by the individual that doesn't have a real ID compliant driver's license.
TSA advises those who plan to pay the fee on the spot allow 15 to 30 minutes more to get through security. This isn't a push to get people to get their real IDs as soon as possible. And this week, Southwest kicked off assigned seating, ending its well-known open seating policy after 5 decades. The airline now offers new fare tiers for basic, preferred, and extra legroom seating with boarding groups based on fare type, seat location, and loyalty membership status. In your morning health watch, oral pain can impact quality of life and lead to bigger health problems later on. Yet many experts say people dismiss their symptoms. Officials say about 90% of adults between ages 20 and 64 have some tooth decay, and nearly half of adults between 45 and 64 have gum disease. Some may dismiss tooth pain due to lack of insurance. Others may dread getting care.
The fact that people say that root canals are painful is really a myth. If you need a root canal, don't be hesitant to go.
The National Institutes of Health say certain behaviors put oral health at risk. That includes consumption of alcohol, tobacco, and opioids. The agency says this can lead to oral cancers, diseased gums, and tooth loss. Coming up on weekend mornings, we are taking a look southeast at the weather system expected to hit millions. Plus, we'll be checking back in with Jacob and see what effects we might see from that locally. But before we head to break, here's a look at last night's winning numbers. You're watching Weekend Mornings. We'll be right back.
You're watching News 3 Now this morning. Moving forward.
More snow could be on the way for communities in the southeast. More than 28 million people are under winter storm watches and warnings. A powerful cyclone is rapidly strengthening in the Atlantic, and the winter storm is set to deliver unusual amounts of snow, damaging winds, and dangerous coastal flooding.
All North Carolinians should be finalizing plans now and should be prepared to stay home and off the roadways starting tonight through early next week.
Potential hurricane-force wind gusts approaching nearly 75 miles per hour are expected along parts of the North Carolina and Virginia shorelines by Saturday night, with blizzard conditions possibly with mixed and heavy snow. Now, I know you didn't mention that there's a little bit of snow somewhere in our forecast this week, but are we going to see any lingering effects from this system in our area?
Not really. The only small effect it would have is because the system down to the southeast is pretty strong. It may take some energy away from any potential snows for our area. You know, we kind of see that a little bit as the system that is projected to move into our area tomorrow will kind of dissipate as it closes in. But it's not going to be a too dramatic of an impact for us here, because we're actually going to see pretty calm conditions. So.
All right, so what are we going to see throughout today?
Well, today we'll have those high temperatures finally back into the lower 20s, and we'll also see a decent amount of sunshine as well. Then as we get towards the overnight hours, we will see those temperatures dropping to around 5 to 10 above zero, kind of similar to what we're seeing right now as clouds increase. Then tomorrow, more cloud cover compared to today, as we will see that chance of snow, especially for areas west of Madison, highs in the middle 20s. And from there, the temperatures will be pretty steady. We'll have a lot of highs in the 20s, and some days days. We may even have highs in the lower 30s. So overall, the next 10 days are looking a lot warmer than the previous 10 days. And each of the last, every day this week through last week Thursday, the low temperature was below zero, which obviously means the wind chills were even colder. And it looks like this morning will be the first morning that we're not going to be in that position. So that's definitely a very good sign of things to come.
Absolutely. This is the warm up we've been waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, 20s will feel like 40s because of how cold it's been for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jacob. In entertainment news this morning, Emmy Award-winning actress Catherine O'Hara has died. The agency representing her says the actress passed away at her home in Los Angeles following a brief illness. She's best known for her roles in Home Alone, Beetlejuice, and Schitt's Creek. She got her start as an improv comedian in Canada, and Catherine O'Hara was 71 years old. Now to our morning motivational quote today from Oprah Winfrey.
We can't become what we need to be by remaining what we are. And I kind of made a joke that this kind of applies to the weather as well. You know, we can't get to the warm up before, we have to, the weather has to start changing a little bit before it does warm up, and we're kind of seeing that. But in terms of just actual, comparing this to, life situations, this is a great quote.
We have to be moving forward and making progress in order to have anything happen. We can't just sit and expect things to change. Yeah. So here's your motivation to become what you need to be by not remaining what you are. Still ahead on Weekend Mornings, we bring you the latest on the newly released Epstein files. Keep it here. We'll be right back after the break. Right now, more Epstein files are released. What critics on Capitol Hill have to say about the investigation.
Plus, here in Madison, we are going to be seeing some warmer temperatures, but it still will be cold. I'll talk more about it coming up.
And the actions local lawmakers are taking to help stop cryptocurrency scams in our state is ahead. Hello, good morning. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm your Weekend Morning anchor, Michelle Renee Quinn.
And I'm meteorologist Jacob Montesano. Finally starting to see those warmer temperatures. Let's take a look at those temperatures this morning. Now, you'll notice they are definitely still cold, but this is also the first morning this entire week where most of the area are seeing temperatures above zero, and Madison is actually in the double digits right now at 12. Now, we also are seeing a little bit of breeze out there, nothing too significant, but these light winds are causing those wind chills to be colder, and in a lot of cases, they are still below zero, but they were in the negative teens at this point the last couple of mornings. So we are starting to see those better conditions, and looking at the wind chills by the afternoon, they're going to rise into the positive teens, and the actual temperatures will rise into the 20s. We also will see plenty of sunshine with very little wind by the afternoon. So all things considered, pretty nice day, I guess. I mean, it's still very cold, but compared to where it's been, it'll feel a lot better. And I'll continue talking more about that little bit of a warm up continuing into next week, coming up a bit later.
Thanks, Jacob. We'll be checking in shortly. More than a month after the Justice Department was supposed to release all the Jeffrey Epstein files, the DOJ dropped a massive amount of material connected to the convicted sex offender yesterday. Erica Brown reports.
The Department of Justice announced Friday the release of more than 3 million pages of documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation.
Today's release marks the end of a very comprehensive document identification and review process to ensure transparency to the American people.
Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said the release includes more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images connected to the convicted sex offender and his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell.
We did not protect President Trump. We didn't protect or not protect anybody. I mean, I think that there's a hunger or a thirst for information that I do not think will be satisfied by the review of these documents.
He noted there are extensive redactions to protect victims' identities. Previous Epstein document releases have highlighted the late financier's connections to many high-profile men, including former President Bill Clinton and President Trump, who has called the Epstein investigation a hoax.
What this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has.
The Justice Department says it has to submit a final report to Congress providing the justifications for the redactions before the matter is complete. But critics on Capitol Hill say the investigation is far from over. Democrat Robert Garcia, the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, released a statement slamming the DOJ for releasing only about 50% of the material it collected, saying, quote, "We are demanding the names of Epstein's co-conspirators and the men and pedophiles who abused women and girls." He also promised a thorough review of the newly released material.
The DOJ was supposed to release all the files in December under a law passed by Congress and signed by President Trump. But the DOJ said it needed extra time to go through the sheer volume of material it collected. In more top stories, protests took place across the country on Friday, condemning federal immigration enforcement after the fatal shootings of Minneapolis residents Alex Peretti and Renee Good. The demonstrations were part of what activists called Ice Out Day of Action, where participants were urged not to attend school, work, or shop. That was seen locally at our Capitol as hundreds poured into the streets of Madison. Dozens of businesses also closed their doors, joining the nationwide shutdown. And nurses from Madison hospitals stood in solidarity with those in Minneapolis after one of their own was shot and killed by ICE agents.
I have a lot of friends from nursing school in Wisconsin who live in Minneapolis, and their community is really hurting.
Even though we're freezing and we don't necessarily want to be out in the cold, but we think this is really important to do.
There will be a community meeting at the Labor Temple today at noon. President Trump says he's nominating former Morgan Stanley executive Kevin Warsh to lead the Federal Reserve. Warsh also served on the Fed Board of Governors from 2006 to 2011 during the global financial crisis. More recently, he's publicly called the Fed's leadership, quote, broken, and advocated for lowering interest rates, aligning him with the president's criticism of current chair Jerome Powell.
This was the perfect candidate. This was not a surprise or anything. This was the man that's most qualified.
Lawmakers have signaled their concern about ensuring the independence of the central bank. A DOJ inquiry into Powell over the multi-billion-dollar renovation of the Fed's headquarters could impact Warsh's confirmation process. Luigi Mangione will not face the death penalty if convicted of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. A judge is throwing out the federal murder charge against him. It only applies to killings that happened during another violent crime. Prosecutors argue stalking meets that requirement, but the judge disagrees. The two remaining federal charges against Mangione are for alleged stalking. They carry a maximum sentence of life in prison without parole. And a Minnesota man is in custody charged with trying to break Luigi Mangione out of jail by impersonating a federal agent. Law enforcement says the man arrived at the Brooklyn, New York detention center Wednesday claiming to be an FBI agent with a court order to release Mangione. It's not clear whether or how he may be connected to Mangione. And right now, state lawmakers are coming together to stop scams involving cryptocurrency. Scammers often pose as the government and tell victims they need to put their money into a cryptocurrency kiosk. But a new bipartisan bill would put more restrictions on transactions by putting a daily limit of $500 per transaction, making receipts mandatory, and requiring an ID for every transaction.
I just think especially since COVID, this has really accelerated, and with the technology, it's only going to be getting even more tough on some of these cases.
What we have before us are common sense protections to make sure that folks who have spent decades accumulating a life savings aren't swindled out of them.
There will be a hearing for this bill next week at the Capitol. In addition to lawmakers and AARP, law enforcement and banks are expected to support the bill. At the state capitol, Democratic lawmakers are moving to amend Wisconsin's constitution, working to create an individual fundamental right to privacy. Lawmakers say the amendment would protect Wisconsinites from government overreach and coercion. It would also shift the burden in court, requiring the government to justify how it had the authority to violate someone's privacy, rather than forcing individuals to prove the government did something wrong.
11 other states have privacy rights in their constitutions. Some states like Montana and Alaska, the privacy rights been interpreted to be stronger than the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which is for unreasonable searches and seizures.
Democrats say they're hopeful Republicans will join them in supporting the amendment. A separate bill which would allow Wisconsinites to sue in state court when their constitutional rights are violated by state or federal officials has been referred to committee. In more local news this morning, UW Health says it's completed more transplants last year than all other centers in Wisconsin combined. In total, more than 520 lives were saved through transplants, and that includes a record 67 lung transplants. Liver transplants also saw a 23% increase, driven in part by advances in organ preservation and perfusion technologies.
These are devices that a liver, once it's donated, goes right into this machine, and it can stay in this machine for 10, 12, 15 hours if it needs to. And that allows us to either bring in a patient that maybe lives further away, or if we have a delay and our OR is very busy and we need a little bit of time to get them to the OR. So that has certainly helped.
Waiting times for all organ types remain consistently shorter than national averages, including a median kidney wait time of just over 13 months, less than half the national average. You're watching Weekend Mornings. Coming up after the break, sports director Andrew Banstra takes us to the Kohl Center for a special Badgers game, sharing the importance of coming together as a community.
You're watching News 3 Now this morning. Moving forward.
Welcome back. In your morning health watch, everyone's pushing protein lately, but doctors say it may not be what your body needs. The government's new dietary guidelines are encouraging Americans to eat more protein, but it's mainly beef and dairy being pushed, not the healthier proteins from plant-based options. Doctors are stressing that more is not always better, especially when it comes to red and processed meat. They also say what Americans could really use more of is fiber, especially from fruits and vegetables. Let's check in now with meteorologist Jacob Manasano live from our studio in Madison.
Thanks, Michelle. Renee, as we take a look at the temperatures over the past 2 weeks, each day colored in blue indicates a day that was below normal. And in case you haven't noticed, that's every single day over the past 2 weeks. But the coldest day being last week, Saturday and Friday, where the high temperature was -4 and -3. Now, over the course of the month, we actually aren't too far below normal, despite the fact that the last 2 weeks have been, in some cases, upwards of 30 degrees below normal, because we had that very warm start. We're only around 2.5 degrees below the normal for the month, and we're obviously going to see those below normal temperatures once the month is all said and done. And although it is going to warm up a little bit, again, we still are going to see relatively colder temperatures, but we're going to see a lot more highs in the 20s compared to the teens and single digits that we've seen a lot over the past 2 weeks.
For as electrifying as Wisconsin men's basketball's thrilling win on Wednesday over Minnesota was, it was far from the biggest win at the Kohl Center that night. That honor belonged to an 8-year-old superstar from Monroe, Declan Copeland.
December of 2023, Declan was diagnosed with childhood leukemia.
Doctors found the cancer when Declan had strep throat, and thankfully, they found it early.
We've been in treatment for almost the last 2.5 years. We're going on 2.5 years. We're kind of in our final stages. Things have gone pretty well, so we're very thankful for that.
But you can only imagine the toll that it took on Declan. That's where the Badgers stepped in. Partnering with the AmFam Children's Hospital, he and 11 other AmFam patients got to paint shoes Wisconsin's coaches wore during the game. Declan's design process for Badgers assistant coach Lance Randall's Snakes proved him an artist after my own heart.
I just wanted to make it cool. I wanted it to make our ribbons. I wanted it to just make it cool, make it colorful.
During the game, Declan was part of the dozen patients honored on the Kohl Center floor. An experience he described as
really fun, really cool. It's a dream. It's really cool.
A dream for the ultimate Badger fan, who at age 8 has been through more than most.
How big of a Badger fan are you?
Really big.
Are they your favorite team?
Yeah.
And Declan's dad has been with him every step of the way.
This is something we'll never forget. It's been hard the last 2.5 years, so it was an honor to get this experience.
Well, as if there wasn't enough on his plate already, Declan's dad founded the Declan Project, a year-round toy drive for kids at the AmFam Children's Hospital. And yesterday morning, he made one of the largest toy donations the hospital has ever received. An incredible, incredible story. And in hockey news, Wisconsin men's and women's hockey could not get the job done last night. But make sure to watch the Badger men on Television Wisconsin this evening at 6 p.m. That's your morning sports fix. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, Andrew. Coming up after the break, we keep it local, taking you to Mequon, sharing the love just in time for Valentine's Day. Plus, here's a look at your road conditions this morning. Jacob brings you the full forecast after the break when we return on weekend mornings.
Welcome back. Here's a look at the 3 things you need to know. Temperatures are going to continue to be cold, but they will get better this weekend with a small chance of snow tomorrow, but overall not a ton of snow in the forecast, certainly not a ton of accumulating snow. Now looking at the forecast for today, plenty of sunshine in the afternoon with clouds developing during the overnight hours, and that will lead to our chance of snow tomorrow as a clipper system moves into our area from the west. But as it moves west to east, it is going to dissipate, so the best chance of snow will be for you folks near the Mississippi River to the west of Madison, and the chance of this snow will kind of be on and off throughout much of the day. They'll be around early, then maybe another consistent round later. But again, we're still not expecting a lot of snow from this, as it mostly will clear out by the time we get to Monday morning. Maybe about an inch or 2 for you folks near the Mississippi River, probably less than an inch for Dane County and surrounding areas. After that, very dry for the first half of the work week, with a chance of snow returning Thursday into Friday. This round of snow is not expected to produce much accumulation either. So looking at the 10-day forecast, pretty quiet conditions, not seeing a huge warm up. We could get into the 30s, but nothing in the 40s or 50s are expected, and we're not expecting a big cool down either. And on top of all that, not expecting a ton of accumulating snow. So very average winter-like conditions with very little snow is expected going forward. You know, we've been very up and down this winter with also some big snows at times, but the next 10 days and maybe even beyond that is looking much more steady across Wisconsin, especially southern Wisconsin.
All right, thank you, Jacob. Couples in Mequon renewed their vows this week just in time for Valentine's Day. But these couples are not rookies when it comes to love and commitment. They've been at it for a collective 360 years. Andy Bernhardt shares the secret to their long, happy marriages.
Well, the secret is to have a great wife. That's the biggest secret. No death.
Hang it on.
Stick together and work things out.
After decades of marriage, 6 happy couples walk down the aisle with their loved one once again.
Getting memories, flashbacks of how it was, 1970 when we were married.
It brought back so many great memories of that day.
For each couple at Teal Shore Senior Living, this wasn't their first time saying I do. This time it was to renew their vows.
I am his wife. And he is the best husband I could ask for.
Bruce and Rosemary Malik have been married for 65 years and say they are grateful for every moment together, even in the hard times.
When things get tough, you start thinking about all the tough times. Try to take a break and think of the good times and realize that, hey, this is all worthwhile because look what I've got.
It was an emotional moment for each couple as they renewed their vows, the group celebrating 360 years of love all together. For those wanting to follow in their footsteps, their advice is simple.
I do have a secret. I think a good sense of humor is really important in a good marriage. Separate bathrooms. Makes a big difference.
For her, it does.
People said this before, but yes, dear, is one of the secrets.
Grateful for the time spent together and the memories to come with their partner by their side.
And music's biggest night is just one day away. Kendrick Lamar, Lady Gaga, and Sabrina Carpenter are setting the tempo with a combined 22 Grammy nominations. Lamar tops the list with 9 nominations. He won 5 last year. He's in the running for Record of the Year alongside Bad Bunny, Sabrina Carpenter, Doechii, Billie Eilish, Lady Gaga, Chappelle Roan, Rosé, and Bruno Mars. And music's biggest night includes more than music, including Best Audiobook. You can watch the Grammys tomorrow night right here on Channel 3 and join us ahead of that tomorrow morning on Weekend Mornings for a behind-the-scenes preview. Still ahead on Weekend Mornings, we share today's motivation plus how Ghirardelli is reimagining chocolate on Valentine's Day. Keep it here, we're right back.
You're watching News 3 Now this morning. Moving forward.
Welcome back. Just in time for Valentine's Day, the Ghirardelli Chocolate Company is redefining the holiday with the return of its viral gift, the Choco Locket. Now, this locket is a custom crafted 14K gold-plated locket created to hold one mini Ghirardelli square inside. Both a gift and a treat meant to be shared with someone special. The company says just like Ghirardelli chocolate and caramel are a perfect pair, it's their playful tribute to all the perfect pairs in our lives, whether that's best friends, siblings, coworkers, or romantic partners. Each pair arrives packaged with a bag of mini Ghirardelli squares, reinforcing the idea that great moments are meant to be enjoyed together. And your wife doesn't like chocolate.
No, and I'm glad I don't have to worry about that because I wonder how expensive that would be if you said 14 karat gold.
I did, and I didn't even look up at the price, so I should double check that.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Interesting. Well, to our morning motivational quote now today from Oprah Winfrey.
We can't become what we need to be by remaining what we are. When I read this, I'm like, yeah, this quote definitely hits different, and it's pretty deep. I like it.
Yes, so this is your motivation to not remain what you are. Keep going to what you want to be. Thanks for watching Weekend Mornings. Join us again tomorrow live from 6:30 to 8. Up next is Lucky Dog Reunions, and our next newscast is coming up at 6. You can find us streaming 24/7 on Channel 3000+.